Man, I would take that off for any day. You should work for me. Why? Because I invented paper to write this message to you. Every time somebody adapts the story of Alexander the Great into a movie or a TV show somewhere in the world, a historian stubs their toe. This was not me, for I'm not a historian yet. I'm just a girl who takes the burning of Persepolis maybe a bit more seriously than I should, so I really can't imagine the Alexander docuseries being entertaining to me personally in any way, shape, or form, which means that it's almost guaranteed to be enjoyable for people to watch me be frustrated about it. I'm going to try not to look for mistakes in this adaptation maliciously. Plenty of other more qualified people have looked for errors in this show and apparently found some. I don't feel the need to do that. I'm just going to go into the first episode with you. Just gonna see what happens.
A young Macedonian prince fighting for his country and for glory. And a Persian king determined to defend the greatest empire on earth.
For his country and for... Okay, for his country and for glory, we say as we watch him high-five his friends, and then we cut over to his adversary with equally cool-sounding goals, staring deadpan into the camera, like he wants to inflict depression upon whoever's behind it. You know what? Objectivity died 10 seconds into this. I'm gonna get it out of my system. F you, Alexander of Macedon, you little fuck. I apologize for my outburst. Hi, Alex. I think you're ugly.
Alexander was the greatest military mind of all time.
Oh boy. My authority to critique this, which was obviously not strong from the start, has just, died, because that's Lloyd Llewellyn-Jones. He is one of the people I maybe learned the most from when it comes to A Cabinet Persia, aside from Pierre Bryant and Margaret Miller maybe. So we're going to be very humble about this.
Hephaestion really was not just a cherished companion, but perhaps his greatest love.
Do you hear that? That is the sound of grown men crying on Twitter.
Gay just wasn't in their vocabulary whatsoever. There was just being sexual.
So true, bestie. Please reply to my fan mail.
This wedding would have such fascinating entertainment.
Who do you mean?
Us.
As it often is in the world, I regret not knowing more than I do, because all of this just... that feels wrong. I feel like I saw other people critique the costume design before, but again, like this area at this time is just completely beyond me. I think she would have styled her eyebrows different, but who am I to say? Why wouldn't a girl have dressed like Jesus? We don't know.
And it was here in a vast palace that Darius III and his queen, Statira, held court.
Oh, yeah. It is Darius III. I know nothing about this man. Man, this would be less of a theme if Alexander had been around a bit earlier and gone up against, like, Artaxerxes II or something. I can tell you, that boy would have been so sad at Alexander. You know what? Never mind. Leave Artaxerxes II alone. He's been through enough. But Darius I would have wiped the floor with Alexander. The costume design here is something I might be a little more qualified to criticize. The clothes themselves... sure. I mean, I think they had the, what was it called? Gaukana? The royal robe was like a pretty big deal in A Cabinet Persia. Some things that might be more valuable to kind of keep authentic would be the difference between like cavalry and court dress, which was very much a thing. Maybe the existence of pants. You could kind of weave in that the Greeks did not approve of pants because pants are gay and you're a little bitch if you wear them. That's a fun fact I need more of in the world. What is more confusing to me is what's going on like up here. What is that? That's just bumps. I don't know if this is historical, if they found something that looked like this, but even if they did, I am mad that they would not have made use of the vast amounts of Achaemenid bling that we know of and have access to. Like, the Oxus treasure is right there. You can have necklaces, pectorals, torques, colorful, sick-ass earrings that hold up today. Like, why choose this Transformers texture as chest plate? What is that? The hair's the right length, but we also know pretty reliably from palace reliefs that the Persians valued like curled hair. Some of the design choices in the reliefs might even point to the curled hair being explicitly curled and not genetic. So they could have had Darius curl his hair, which, if you're not into this, might sound a bit odd at first, but I remind you that a curling iron in essence is just like a metal stick that you make warm, and then you kind of twirl your hair around it, and then you have it's not rocket science, okay? The ancients had this down. The Achaemenid Persians were very aesthetic people. I'm glad they kept the eyeliner, but I feel like that could have been hotter. Like, men wear kohl to this day, but I've been down on this for a while. Let's move on. I propose a fun new game that I think he'd approve of. Every time they make Alexander just sort of smolder at nothing, I'm gonna have a drink of this olive brine. Brine. The Greeks had one thing going for them.
Darius wasn't from the royal noble line. He was able to really achieve legitimacy by marrying a noble Persian woman.
Yeah, that checks out. I don't know. I have this succession of the Achaemenid emperors taped to the wall of my childhood bedroom, so I know that Darius III is kind of like tacked on after the Artaxerxes. It's obviously also not unusual to kind of claim succession through the wife or the mom, like Xerxes and Darius did through Atassa, for example. So yeah, that might actually be a pretty interesting thing to look into. Too bad I'm not done crying over Artaxerxes II yet. You don't understand. His mom didn't like him, okay?
As far as he was concerned, like all other Greeks and Macedonians, the gods walked amongst men.
Something to share, Attalus? Nothing of note.
So Darius reaches out to Attalus as someone who he can basically bribe.
Man, I would take that offer any day. You should work for me. Why? Because I invented paper to write this message to you. Be on the winning side as I revolutionize the Egyptian export of papyrus forever. Okay, I really am no expert, but that is some damn smooth paper. Did they use, like, clean plant fiber that didn't have the ridges that papyrus does? This has to be too thin for hide. It doesn't look like a clay or wax tablet. Can somebody please tell me if they use clean plant fiber to make stuff like this? This is, yeah.
What we see here is the emergence of Alexander, the consummate politician.
Okay, this is another one where it would be pretty embarrassing if I got it wrong, but I don't think they had saddles at that point in time. Like, saddles that look this modern. Throughout history, and in this period specifically, there was reason to point out horses because they were hugely important to both warfare and culture. You know, there is that one very famous, like, mosaic of Alexander the Great. I don't think that shows something like this. Xenophon himself, at the time of Artaxerxes II, if I'm not mistaken, was an Athenian cavalryman. Above all else, they valued the nomadic writing and telling the truth, which is a Nah, I was wrong. I just checked. It's plausible that Alexander of Macedon would have had a saddle like this if he'd also had a Scythian or Paseric friend that would have introduced him to the model in the century they invented it in. We're nothing but fair on this channel. However, the thing that he pretty definitely would not have had was stirrups, because they seem to be a Chinese invention a couple of years later. I feel pretty confident pointing this out because Lloyd Llewellyn-Jones was probably not involved in this specifically. It would have made sense to forgo historical accuracy here because it would have had to do with the actor's safety. I don't think the actor of Alexander would have had riding bareback in his job description, but then again, maybe he did. Alright, I'm done.
But who will be victorious? Who will prevail?
Are people who aren't into history watching this? Am I making fun of like a blockbuster? Because if not, then the audience knows who's gonna win. These are events that could have been spoiled throughout the past 2,300 years. I know that they need to make it dramatic. They obviously value the kind of spectacle more than they value making it a documentary, which I'll be fully honest, I would not have a problem with if it were a documentary about somebody I liked. But I also think that this kind of drama of like, oh, these people, you know, they were meant to meet, the fight, destiny. It feels like this is a specifically non-historian stance on history. Like, I don't think it's impossible to be spiritual and a historian at the same time, but I also think that if you know enough about the private lives and decisions of people who are endlessly deified today, if you understand the real sociocultural motivations for why people did things, idealizing anyone is something that's, I think, very hard to hold on to. Kind of like nationalism. Or believe in the Christian institution. Anyway, this was a fun, short little project. Let me know if you want me to look at the second episode in public. I honestly think I might just privately cry over it like a little baby whose favorite character does not appear in a show she likes. I can't do the straight opposite of what these people are doing, but I really do hope they give Darius his due. He's kind of the end of something that I like. I hope we get to see some of the stuff I like. They might as well have played polo.